Japanese schools are known for their rigorous academic standards, discipline, and unique cultural practices. However, beyond the usual focus on education, there are a number of strict and sometimes surprising rules that govern student behavior and appearance. These rules, often referred to as buraku kosoku, can seem strange or even unbelievable to outsiders. From restrictions on hairstyles and sock length to rules about dating and after-school activities, these regulations reflect Japan's emphasis on conformity, respect, and tradition. We'll explore 10 of the most unusual and strict Japanese school rules that you might find hard to believe exist. Why Japanese school uniform for girls consists of a very short skirt. The short length of skirts in Japanese school uniforms, particularly for girls, is often a topic of curiosity and sometimes controversy. Originally, the design of the uniforms, including the skirt length, was not intended to be provocative but rather practical and influenced by historical and cultural factors. The modern Japanese school uniform for girls, known as siifuku, was introduced in the early 20th century, inspired by European naval uniforms. At the time, the length of the skirt was relatively modest, reflecting the fashion trends and societal norms of the period. Over time, the length of the skirts has evolved, partially influenced by global fashion trends and the desire for uniforms to be both practical and stylish. During the post-war period, as Western fashion became more popular in Japan, shorter skirts started to become more common. In many cases, the short skirts seen in schools are not a result of the official uniform design, but rather the students' own preferences. Many girls roll up their skirts at the waist to make them shorter, which has become a common practice as a form of self-expression and to align with contemporary fashion trends. The short skirts have also been influenced by Japanese pop culture, including anime and manga, where schoolgirls are often depicted with short skirts. This has contributed to a cultural norm where shorter skirts are seen as fashionable and desirable among students. Japanese students clean classrooms. In Japanese schools, it is a common practice for students to clean their own classrooms, as well as other areas of the school, as part of their daily routine. This tradition, known as suji, is deeply rooted in Japanese culture and education, emphasizing values such as responsibility, discipline, and respect for one's environment. By participating in the cleaning process, students learn to take responsibility for their own environment. They understand that maintaining a clean and organized space is everyone's duty, and this sense of responsibility extends beyond the classroom into other areas of their lives. Cleaning is typically done in groups, with students working together to complete various tasks. This fosters a sense of teamwork and cooperation, as students must collaborate to ensure that all areas are properly cleaned. Cleaning their own classrooms teaches students to respect their surroundings. When students are responsible for cleaning up after themselves, they are less likely to litter or cause damage, knowing that they or their peers will have to clean it up later. In Japan, there is a cultural emphasis on humility and equality. Kanchowanji the teacher. Kancho is the ancient art of clasping your hands together and poking someone in the rear. Kancho is not meant to be vulgar or mean. In fact, it is rarely used in an antagonistic way, like a nipple twister or a head noogie, but rather as a kind of affection, similar to athletes patting each other's butts. Foreign teachers in Japan are often the target of kancho. This is partly due to their celebrity status in schools, as many kids want to be the one who kancho the English teacher. Japanese schools ban the ponytail over fears that the hairstyle could sexually excite men. The claim that Japanese schools ban ponytails over fears that the hairstyle could sexually excite men is based on some real practices, but it is often exaggerated or misunderstood. Japanese schools are known for having strict dress codes and rules governing students' appearances, and these regulations can sometimes include restrictions on hairstyles. In some Japanese schools, there are indeed restrictions on hairstyles, including the length and style of students' hair. Schools may ban certain hairstyles, like ponytails, because they believe such styles could be distracting or too expressive. The rationale behind these rules often ties back to the desire to maintain uniformity and prevent students from standing out or drawing attention. The specific idea that ponytails are banned because they could sexually excite men reflects a concern in some schools that certain hairstyles might draw undue attention to students, particularly girls. This concern is rooted in conservative attitudes about modesty and the perception that certain styles might be seen as provocative. students are prohibited from dating and having relationships. In many Japanese schools, there are strict rules that prohibit students from dating or having romantic relationships. These rules are part of the broader set of regulations known as buraku kosoku, which are designed to maintain discipline, focus on academics, and uphold certain cultural values within the school environment. Schools in Japan often prioritize discipline and uniformity, aiming to create an environment where all students are treated equally and distractions are minimized. Romantic relationships might lead to favoritism, jealousy, or other social issues that could disrupt the school environment. Schools may also prohibit dating to avoid complications that can arise from teenage relationships, such as emotional stress, public displays of affection, or even bullying. By banning relationships, schools aim to create a more stable and controlled environment for all students. Cell phones are not allowed to be used inside the school. In many Japanese schools, the use of cell phones is strictly regulated, with policies often prohibiting students from using them during school hours. This rule is part of a broader effort to maintain discipline, minimize distractions, and focus on academics. One of the main reasons for banning cell phone use in schools is to ensure that students remain focused on their studies. Cell phones can be a significant source of distraction, with students potentially using them to text, play games, browse social media, or watch videos during class. Cell phones can also be used to cheat during exams or quizzes, whether by looking up answers online or communicating with others. By restricting cell phone use, schools aim to maintain academic integrity. In many schools, students are required to turn off their phones and store them in their bags upon arrival. The phones typically remain off and out of sight throughout the school day. Some schools may even collect phones at the beginning of the day and return them at the end. Strict dress code. Most Japanese schools require students to wear uniforms, known as tsifuku. These uniforms are typically gender-specific, with boys wearing suits or blazers paired with trousers, and girls wearing blazers, skirts, and often sailor-style tops. Uniforms often have different versions for summer and winter, with lighter materials used for the warmer months and heavier fabrics for the colder season. Students are expected to adhere strictly to these seasonal guidelines. Many schools have specific rules about the length and style of students' hair. For boys, hair is often required to be short and neatly trimmed, while girls may be required to have their hair tied back if it is long. Certain hairstyles, such as dyed hair, perms, or trendy cuts, are generally prohibited. Some schools enforce rules requiring students to maintain their natural hair color. Students with naturally curly or non-black hair may be asked to prove that their hair is natural and not artificially altered. Students are required to change into indoor shoes when entering the school building. These shoes are usually simple, plain, and often color-coded by grade or class. Socks must usually be of a specific color and length, often white and covering the ankles. Punctuality. In Japan, being on time is seen as a sign of respect for others' time and is considered a basic social courtesy. This cultural emphasis on punctuality is ingrained from a young age, with schools playing a crucial role in teaching and reinforcing this value. Schools typically have a specific start time for the school day, often around 8:30 a.m., though it can vary slightly depending on the school. Students are expected to arrive well before this time to prepare for the day ahead. Being late to school or class is taken very seriously. Students who arrive late may face various penalties, such as having to apologize in front of the class, receiving a mark on their record, or even being assigned extra cleaning duties. Chronic tardiness can lead to more severe consequences, such as meetings with parents or counseling sessions to address the issue. In some cases, repeated lateness can affect a student's grades or eligibility for school activities. Teachers are responsible for enforcing punctuality rules, monitoring student arrival times, and taking disciplinary actions if necessary. They also serve as role models, demonstrating punctuality in their own behavior. The Susumida. The Susumida is a traditional Japanese tool used for various purposes, including in schools for specific disciplinary and safety functions. While the Susumida itself is more commonly associated with historical or ceremonial uses, there are specific contexts in which similar concepts or tools are relevant in Japanese schools. Traditionally, a Susumida is a polearm or spear-like tool used in Japan. It typically consists of a long pole with a forked or bladed end. Historically, It was used by police or security personnel for crowd control or apprehending suspects. The design allows it to pin or restrain someone without causing lethal harm. No substitute staff when a teacher is absent. In many Japanese schools, particularly at the elementary and middle school levels, it is common for there to be no substitute staff or temporary teachers available when a regular teacher is absent. This practice is due to a combination of factors related to school management, staffing policies, and educational culture. There is often a shortage of substitute teachers available to fill in for regular teachers. This can be due to budget constraints, the difficulty of finding qualified substitutes on short notice, or administrative policies that prioritize other expenditures. Japanese schools often emphasize a strong sense of community and self-management among students. In the absence of a teacher, there may be a focus on maintaining discipline and continuing with self-directed or group activities. Students are expected to be responsible and adhere to the instructions left by the absent teacher. What do you think of these Japanese school rules? And what was your silliest school rule growing up? Tell me all about it in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.